So I want to spend a few minutes talking about what happens when you have those ideas, those light bulb moments, if you like, where you just have a gut feeling that this idea is going to make a significant difference in your field, or even more importantly, make a significant difference in people's lives. So how do we protect it? So what are the next steps? So I'm going to spend a few moments talking about how we evaluate it, and then kind of two levels of protection: how we protect it legally, and then how we protect the value of it, which is a little bit broader than just the legal protection. So first of all, we have to figure out what it is and evaluate it. And to do that, we need you to contact our office when you have one of these ideas and have one of these light bulb moments. It's always a good thing to even call us before you file an invention disclosure, but at least talk to us and then file an invention disclosure. And then what happens next is that we will seek to understand the points of novelty of that invention. We'll try to dig in and figure out what the core of the invention is, where it's different than the prior art. We'll understand the prior art. We'll do a prior art search. We have tools internally that we use, as well as using outside firms and outside counsel to help us understand the landscape of your invention and figure out where it fits in and how we can claim it. Our goal in this part of the process in the initial evaluation is to determine if it's patentable or not. Is it patent eligible, for example? Patent eligibility, I'll just speak just a second on that. If it's easier to talk about what isn't eligible. Abstract ideas are not eligible. If you've just simply found a new way of describing nature or understanding nature, that's unlikely to be patentable. If you've are describing if it's a mental process that you can carry out in your mind, that's probably not patentable, which may include some algorithms. Not all algorithms are not patentable. Some are, depending on what the output of that algorithm is and what it's connected to. Organizing human activity is another one that's typically not eligible, but everything else is. And so, but we will have a look at that first, and then we'll look at novelty. Is there anyone else that's done something, almost exactly what you've done? Has it been published? And we'll look at that in the prior art. We'll also look at what's called obviousness, and that is where, maybe there's 3 or 4 different articles or publications that describe different aspects that are getting close to your invention, but not exactly describing them. But if you put all of those all of those references together, they might suggest your invention. We usually won't not go forward with an application because of obviousness, but we'll certainly assess our risk of patentability when we look at obviousness. And the last thing is enablement. Enablement is just simply, does it work or not? In the physical sciences, that's usually pretty straightforward. In the life sciences, it's usually not so straightforward. Does it work for its intended use? For example, a drug. It may take much more work than what's done in our labs to figure out if it's actually going to work for its intended use. So enablement is, does it work? And then talk for a moment about a different light bulb moment. I get calls sometimes from PIs who realize that they just got a review back from from the journal that their paper's been accepted, and they suddenly realize that they haven't contacted the Office of Research about this idea, and they get the light bulb moment that I better contact the Office of Research about this idea because it's about to publish. So hopefully you don't wait that long, because the process I just described earlier is very important in order to strengthen the patent application. If we want to put together a strong patent application that is protectable and protects the value, then we do want to go through the process. But nonetheless, I'm a patent agent, and Robert McMinn, my colleague, is also a patent agent, and if we need to, we can file a provisional patent application quickly if there's an impending publication. So timing is everything on publication. There's a 1-year patent bar in the US, so you have 1 year to file a patent application from the time that your work was published. For a US patent, there's an immediate patent bar for most of the rest of the world. So if you've published it, it's unlikely you can get an international patent application on that. So let's talk a little bit about legally protecting it. So under patent law, here's the process we would walk through. First of all, to legally protect it, you don't want to disclose it before it's protected. And so use non-disclosure agreements, especially prior to any publication events, giving talks, working, even collaborating with colleagues. If you've got sensitive ideas that you're sharing with colleagues, you might want to consider sharing under a non-disclosure agreement. Of course, public presentations, you want to do this before that, and then or before patent filing. And then once we have evaluated it and decide to move forward, we'll file usually a provisional U.S. patent application. Like I said, we can do this in-house, or we'll sometimes use outside counsel. Provisional U.S. patent expires 1 year from its filing date. It doesn't cost a whole lot of money. It's a pretty easy way to get the process started and gives us some time to evaluate it further. A year from then, we file a non-provisional patent application, assuming that it's passed muster and we feel like it has some value and worth spending some money on, or there's even a licensee involved at that point. That patent application will typically take 3 to 5 years to get through the process in the USPTO, and it expires in 20 years from the filing date of that application. It costs considerably more money, on the order of $8,000 to $15,000, for example, depending on the type of application. If it's international, it'll cost quite a bit more than that. And then there are maintenance costs and cost of continuing the patents as you move on, and then those continuation patents are also good for up to 20 years. The goal of this process, this patent process, and I haven't gone into any details of that, obviously today, I don't have time for that, but the goal of it, the most important thing here, is to find a licensee who will really provide that further protection, that deeper level protection. They'll develop it into a product that's safe and usable for society, and they'll further protect it as well, which I'll talk about in the next slide, and commercialize it. So moving forward, so this is, again, protecting the value, or protecting it for public use, if you like. Let's back up to just one more detail about the patent itself. What is a patent? So a patent provides a legal right to exclude others from making or selling it, okay? Whatever it is what is actually claimed in the application. So the claims, the actual words in the claims and what they spell out defines what the invention is. When you have to exclude, it gives you the right to exclude others, so that brings us into the concept of infringement and others that infringe the claims in your patent. In order to prove, in order to sue someone for infringement, you have to have significant proof that they've done so. And how you set up the claims and how you make those claims can make it easy or very difficult to provide that proof. Typically, claims are in 2 categories. They're usually either apparatus claims, which are devices and compositions of matter and so forth. Things that are easy to see, easy to be tested, they're provable. Methods, such as process steps, manufacturing steps, control algorithms, steps in programs and so forth, oftentimes aren't so easy to prove. They're done behind the scenes. So a lot of times what we'll look for, even in that initial process, is the process, if we're going to claim a method, is that process or method detectable? If it's detectable, then it's easier to prove and the patent has more value. It has, and the fact that the patent has more value allows it to be commercialized. Again, what we're trying to do is find a licensee, and licensees need to be able to have an enticing value proposition. So another thing that we work together on to create value around this patent and to protect it is to create a good value proposition. So we work with the inventors, and we work with potential licensees and investors and investment community to figure out the value proposition and bring a licensee in. Licensee then will attract further investment and then build a business around it. It takes work and effort and money. They will then be responsible to enforce the patent to protect our investment and to protect their investment that they've made in our work, in our research, and in our patentable invention. So then they're the ones that would file infringement suits, for example, and work to build a hedge around that patent. And then finally, another way that a licensee will create more value and protect it further is that they need a freedom to operate by the nature of their business itself. If they're going to make money and make money so that it can be commercialized and made safe and usable for society, then they're going to need freedom to operate, freedom to practice the invention. So that involves protecting themselves against some other companies or other individuals filing infringement lawsuits against them or other means. So what they'll do is sometimes create deals with other companies. They'll exchange patents and licenses with other companies in order to set up a situation where they can, in fact, develop a business around it. Again, that's something the university doesn't do. So we need licensees in order to do that. In order to get licensees, we need to create good value propositions and have good interactions, which involve our inventors. It's a process that we all do together. The inventors, we work with the inventors to, first of all, define the invention and understand thoroughly what it is so that we can make a strong patent application and get a strong patent issued that has value so that it can be licensed. We use outside counsel to help us do that. We have a lot of resources at our disposal through UT system as well. And then, of course, a lot of times there are industry sponsors that sometimes become licensees, sometimes they don't, but they can also be involved in strengthening our patent applications and our work. Of course, in the sponsored research agreements, a lot of times we spell out exactly how the IP is to be shared with them and utilized by them. So this is what we do. We want to make sure we protect it and work together to do so.